Councilman Gary DeLong, congressional candidate. The City Council voted to support a change in federal law that would make medical marijuana available like a prescription drug at pharmacies. Is that something you'd support if you're in Congress?
You know, I'm going to support all my constituents. If that's the City of Long Beach's position, it's my responsibility to support it. And I do think we need more federal guidance on the marijuana issue. You know, you've got the states doing one thing, cities trying to figure it out, federal has a different guideline. I think it's time to update the federal standards and then apply it equally across the board.
When you're in Congress, you're going to get lobbied and maybe tried to be influenced by some of the federal bureaucracy.
Congress,
but that's all right. Suppose the FAA came to you, or JetBlue came to you if you were in Congress and said, you know what, we'd like to have some later night flights at Long Beach Airport, and we could probably get a few more flights in there as well, and we'd like your support. What would you tell them?
No, I think the citizens of Long Beach are clearly spoken on that. We love our airport. We think it's great just the way it is, and we're not interested in expanding the hours or anything else. We have a solid noise ordinance, and we're going to protect it. Absolutely.
There is a piece of legislation that went through the state legislation committee that came to the city council, and it is opposed by the Long Beach Area Chamber of Commerce, but it's supported by the Long Beach City Council. It's a bill that would ban styrofoam containers or regulate them because they come down the river and pollute the beaches. What do you think of a bill like that? You were absent on that council vote. It was an 8-0 vote.
Well, thank goodness I was absent. But I'm sure I was doing something equally as important. Any questions? No, seriously. You know, obviously I'm a strong supporter and advocate of the environment. I led the effort to clean up the water quality in the Alamitos Bay. We went from D's and F's when I first assumed office to now we're A's and B's. I've equipped all the storm drains, the 151 that feed into the 5 outfalls along our beaches. I've supported the plastic bag ban. So I'm a strong advocate environmentally. However, and there's an however, I don't think now is the time for that legislation. I think businesses are barely getting by. The last thing I want to do is add more expense to the restaurant, which might either leads them out of business, or if they end up having to increase their prices, they're going to pass that on to our residents. And frankly, our residents are struggling right now making ends meet. So I would look at it, but I don't. But the timing is bad. It doesn't make sense to do that in today's economy. In fact, I would tell you what I think we need to do is we need to have a pause. Let's stop adding more and more and more regulations from government on the private sector. It is killing us. It has brought our economy to our needs. This is just one more of those things. We need to stop for a while.
More federal issues. What happened? What if you were in Congress today? What would you be supporting that we do toward Iran?
I'm sorry, what I've been
toward Iran.
Toward Iran, you know, I think we need to exit gracefully as we possibly can from the Middle East. I think we've made a heck of an investment there, but it's time to finish the mission and head home.
All right. Well, in Iran, the centrifuges are spinning, and they say they're developing nuclear power for themselves, and others suspect they're getting ready to make a nuclear weapon. What should the U.S. do there?
Well, this sounds eerily familiar, doesn't it? Didn't we hear weapons of mass destruction once before? I can tell you just from a military perspective, using military might should be the last thing you do, never the first, the second, the third. It is the absolute last thing our country should do. Now, having said that, do we need a strong defense? Absolutely. Do we need to protect our interests abroad? You bet we do. But let's be very careful about engaging in somebody else's issues.
All right. Well, it's Israel's backyard. Suppose Israel mounts an attack in self-defense.
Well, if it's self-defense, I'm going to support that. I think every country absolutely has the right to defend themselves.
There'll be people screaming it's not self-defense, it was an aggressive act. I mean, how would you come out on this? They're an ally in the Middle East.
You bet, they're a strong ally, but I think it's, let's see the facts. Who's right? Are they self-defense, or were they acting proactively and they shouldn't? I don't know until I see the facts, but if they're acting in self-defense, I would strongly support it.
Tell us what you'd like to see done in your first 90 days in office if you're so lucky as to be elected.
Cut the budget. We have a $1.4 trillion deficit. It's unsustainable. It's killing us. The current administration has passed on $2 trillion of national debt they've generated in the last 2 years. And just concurrently, that's more debt than was created in the first 200 years of our country, from President George Washington to President Ronald Reagan. Our generation won't even be able to pay that back. We're passing that debt on to our kids and grandkids. We are mortgaging their future. I am, it's one of the reasons I'm running for Congress. It's morally wrong. We need to trim the government back. It's doubled in cost. I mean, think about it. The federal government has doubled in cost in the last 10 years. And I'm embarrassed to say that's 8 years under Republican administration and 3 years the Democrats. So let's not blame the Democrats solely for this. It's 10 years of poor leadership. We need to cut the costs. We need to get it back to a sustainable, and we need to generate revenue by growing our economy, and we can do it.
All right. You added by growing the economy, but let's talk about the cuts first. Congress can do that right away. in the House where would you make them?
And we should, well, candidly, I think you put everything on the table. Everything is on the table.
What's your favorite?
Well, I'll give you, for example, I mean, I'm an anti-bureaucracy guy, so I'm going to look at the bureaucracy first. Take a Department of Education. Do we want to fund education? Absolutely we do. We want to invest in our kids' future. We don't want to invest in bureaucrats, and right now we send our tax dollars to Washington. The Department of Education takes a cut. They send the State Department takes a cut, and by the time it gets to the classroom, our kids and grandkids get very little of that money. So I would start by, let's cut the bureaucracy in Washington. Let's look at any new program we've started in the last decade, or maybe the last 20 years, and say, does this make sense? Did it achieve its results? If it's not, cut it, eliminate it, get rid of it.
Is it accurate if I said there's no sacred cows for you?
There's no sacred cows for me. Absolutely nothing. I look at everything. I look at everything.
I was going to ask if you had a favorite for the presidential race on the Republican side.
On the Republican side, yes, I have a strong favorite. It's the winner of the primary.
I wanted to also ask you about how you think the city of Long Beach is running now under Mayor Foster.
You know, I think the city's running very well, but it could be better. I mean, you know, it could absolutely be better. There's more things we need to do. We've made some great progress on pension reform. We need to do more. We've eliminated over 1,000 employee positions in the last 10 years. We need to do more. We need to do more. So I don't look at the past and say, well, we've done some great things. We got to do more. For example, I think we need to, get out there and put a defined contribution pension system in place for our non-public safety people. I think, this nibbling at the edges and just, trying to reduce a little here, reduce a little there. No, let's get there. We got to get there.
This is an odd election. Not an odd. It's an unusual election in the sense that Democrats can vote for repubs and vice versa in June.
We're going to. I might want to point out.
Well, I wanted to ask you, what would you like to say to Democrats who are making their decisions now?
The only thing I would ask is look at my record, look at what I have to say. Don't think of me as and label me by a Republican or any other party. Just look at me and say, hey, are we in agreement 80, 90, 95% of the time? If we are, and I think we are usually, then don't worry about the few percent that we disagree on. And I'll tell you, I'm honored to have gotten a lot of Democrat support. The Democrat mayor of Lakewood endorsed me, Larry Van Nostrum. The Democrat mayor of Signal Hill endorsed me, Larry Forster. I've had Democrat councilmen endorse me. I have Democrats help fundraisers in their home for me. I'm honored to get all the support. Now, have I got Republican support too? Yeah, I do. All the members of Congress of Republicans in the district have endorsed me. All the state senators, state assemblymen, every mayor in Orange County in the districts endorsed me. So, I'm getting support from Republicans, Democrats, independents declining the state, and frankly, I think that's what you want. As your elected official, you want somebody that represents everybody, and that's what I intend to do.
Are you going to stay a Long Beach resident if you're elected?
Oh, yeah, definitely. No, we love Long Beach. Long Beach is our home.